You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Thursday, August 27th, 2020. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we are talking about fear. We've already talked about how the world is a little bit of a scarier place now, but how we need to remember that we cannot be controlled by fear because we live in a world with Jesus. We looked at the example of St. Louis, King of France, who boldly went out and fought in the Crusades, even though it was a terribly dangerous thing to do. And we reminded ourselves that Jesus is always there on the other side of death, that he has conquered death, and that we should never be afraid of death. Now, today is the feast day of Saint Monica. Saint Monica is best known because she was the mother of a great saint. Saint Monica's son, Saint Augustine, will be celebrating his feast day tomorrow. But today we're going to talk about Saint Monica, because if there wasn't a Saint Monica, if Saint Monica had not done so boldly and determinedly what she did, we would not have a Saint Augustine. So Saint Monica, they lived in northern Africa, and her husband was a Roman official. So they were a pretty important family. They were pretty wealthy. She was able to give her son, Saint Augustine, everything that he needed in terms of food and clothing, but also she gave him a tremendous education. But Saint Monica, for most of her life, lived with a broken heart. She was Christian. She loved Jesus Christ, but she was devastated because her husband was a pagan, and her son, St. Augustine, was also. They both refused to believe in Jesus Christ, and they lived a life full of sin. St. Augustine, in particular, for most of his young life, did all sorts of sinful things, and he just simply couldn't believe in Christianity. He felt that he was perhaps too smart to believe in Christianity. Now, Saint Monica, no doubt, was not as smart as her son, so she knew she couldn't argue with him. So she did the one thing that she knew could actually change his heart. She prayed for him. She prayed for him without ceasing, constantly begging God that God would change his heart. And God answered her prayers. God sent some powerful mentors into St. Augustine's life. He worked on his heart. And in the end, St. Augustine did convert, but not only that, he became a priest and a bishop, and he also became such a thoughtful, wonderful writer on all that we believe as Catholics that we still read him today. We're still so thankful for his insights today. But again, he never would have applied his incredible mind to the teachings of the Catholic Church if his mother hadn't been storming heaven for him for years. Now, what can we learn from this on our topic of fear? Well, here is a point I want you to remember today, my friends. There's two parts to us. We have a soul and we have a body. And of course, we know that our body reveals our soul, that we can understand who we are on the inside by who we are on the outside. So our bodies are important. Our bodies are also a tremendous gift from God. Our bodies are how we experience the world and interact with the world. But we should never pay more attention to our physical being than we do to our spiritual being. We should never let a fear of illness or death dominate our lives and then therefore forget about the illnesses and the death that can come to our soul. Saint Monica knew that physical death, that the death of our body, is not the worst thing. Yes, it's bad and we should be cautious and protect ourselves, but that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is a death of the soul, for the soul to be completely disconnected from God for all of eternity. Now we know that when someone dies, if they have rejected God, Jesus himself told us that this soul will be disconnected from God and will go to hell. St. Monica knew that this was the ultimate thing to fear. She feared this for her son and for her husband. She knew that St. Augustine had rejected God, that his soul was detached from God, that basically his soul was ill and sick. So she prayed for his soul, even over his body. If he should become sick and die, but his soul was united with God and healthy and thriving in God, then that would be so much better. Now, we all are making our own personal decisions, and you should definitely talk to your parents about this. But you need to really examine, am I more worried about my physical health and my physical body, or am I worried about my soul? We know that the point of life is not to just stay alive. That's not why we were put on this earth, to just stay alive. No, the point of living is to give our lives to Jesus Christ, to do his work, and to have our soul united to his. That is the point of life. It's not just to stay alive and not get sick and be healthy. So Sprouts, consider that. Be thoughtful, be cautious, wash your hands, but consider this. Am I taking as good of care of my soul as I am of my physical body? And pray through the intercession of St. Monica, this tremendous prayer warrior, our prayer. Here we go. Jesus, I trust in you. Free me from fear.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
Catholic Sprouts podcast will be taking a break next week to enjoy the last little tiny bit of summer. I hope that you are well, both physically and spiritually, and I will see you after 1 week's break.